Welcome back to another installment of my No BS news reports. Today we're covering every new piece of information from the episode Heresy Act 2 reveal stream in 9 minutes or less. Starting things off, the new activity for Act 2 is known as the Court of Blades, and is a boss rush style mode that pays homage to the original Court of Oryx activity from Destiny 1. This activity will feature a new gameplay mechanic known as augmentations, which will behave very similarly to the augmentations from Onslaught. The statues in the court will present challenges that the player needs to do in order to fulfill an objective or requirement. For example, the Banish augmentation wants you to defeat casters quickly to prevent banishment or fight your way back to reality. Or the Sharpen augmentation wants you to confront immune blade bearers to obtain swords that strip a challenger's protection. Between phases of killing bosses, random armaments will be made available from the statues in the Hall of Souls that improve your gameplay experience. For example, Darkslayer ammo regeneration will make it so defeating a challenging combatant creates a small shower of ammo bricks for all guardians that can be acquired once per fireteam. And another they mentioned is literally just the Sunbracers exotic perk, which you can select to have as part of your kit, which sounds pretty awesome. Court of Blades will feature an expert difficulty that drops adept versions of the featured weapons, and speaking of, the Act 2 weapon set features a Void adaptive fusion rifle Afterlight, the first ever Strand adaptive glaive Refusal of the Call, a Void lightweight bow Anamnesis, an Arc heavy burst sidearm Division, and finally a Strand 900 RPM adaptive SMG named Mirror Imago. Court of Blades will also receive its own upgrade vendor, much like the Path of Resolve, and this time it's called the Path of Ambition. It seems this activity and the accompanying systems within it are very nuanced and complex, and as such will require much playtime to get a good feel for it. But it does look pretty promising. Also, next week the weekly featured Nightfall weapon will be the Lotus-Eater Void rocket assisted frame sidearm, so mark your calendars for that. Barrow-Dyad is receiving some further updates in Act 2. 2 new catalysts will be made available for the weapon, and these are One for All and Target Lock. In addition, depending on whether you're aligned with the Path of Resolve or the Path of Ambition, the main trait of the weapon will change accordingly. If you opt for the new Path of Ambition, the current Taken Divergence trait will take on the new Taken Ambition trait, which states that Blight generated increases the longer this weapon remains on a target. Blighted Seekers burrow into targets and explode. The remaining 2 catalysts of Hatchling and High Impact Reserves will release later in Act 3. Moving along, the full suite of artifact perks were also revealed, and this time round they've put a pretty major emphasis on trace rifles, and they read as follows. In column 1 we have Overload trace rifles. In column 2 we have a new perk, Be Medic, which states that rapid trace rifle final blows heal you and nearby allies. Powerful combatants increase the amount. In column 3 we have Elemental Siphon, a returning perk from Echoes, which states that rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. It now also has a boost this time, where elemental pickups grant matching super energy when they are collected, which is going to be absolutely insane for Geomag Warlocks with Ionic Traces, so definitely keep this interaction in mind and perhaps check out the build I made that takes full advantage of this interaction. In column 4 we have Harsh Refraction, where it's going to make it so trace rifles do more damage to targets afflicted by elemental debuffs matching their element type. And by the way, this perk will be turned on by default for Microcosm because it's kinetic and there are no such kinetic elemental debuffs. Finally, in column 5 we have Limit Break, which states that casting a super while you are critically wounded or have an elemental buff matching your super element grants a period of increased super damage, which could be really nice for something like a Radiant Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun, for example. Up next we have some Act 3 news that they also briefly mentioned, starting with a few teasers for the artifact perks related to rocket launchers and Strand, which by the sounds of it lines up perfectly with the leaked set of artifact perks from a few weeks back, which you can see on screen now if you want to read, though do take with a grain of salt as it was theorized these would be the Act 2 perks, not the Act 3 ones, and given that the Act 2 mods are totally different, I would be a little cautious when considering these. In addition, both the Nether and the Court of Blades will receive new bosses and combatants, as well as new pressure events coming specifically to the Nether in Act 3. Lastly, the featured activity for Act 3 will be the reprised Sunless Cell Strike from Destiny 1. Definitely looking forward to how they modernize it, so consider me excited for this one. As a reminder, Act 3 releases on the 1st of April. Guardian Games will begin on the 11th of March alongside the release of Act 2 and will feature a bite-sized boss rush mode. And they said that more details will come in the TWID this week, so stay tuned for my summary on that once it drops. Definitely was not expecting a whole new mini mode to be included in Guardian Games of all things, but I cannot complain. Hopefully it's fun to run. The armor for the event is gladiatorial themed, as you can see here, and the featured weapon is a new arc trace rifle Karaunios, which is an ancient Greek word meaning lightning or thunderbolt, which is pretty appropriate given it's an arc weapon. Next we have what was quite possibly the most hyped part about the whole stream, which is a new event Bungie are referring to as the Rite Silhouette of the Nine. It's best to think of this event as essentially a dungeon pantheon that's free for all players, as in it won't require dungeon keys. This event will feature 3 dungeons: Spire of the Watcher, Prophecy, and Ghosts of the Deep. The social hub for this event will be the 3rd Spire from vanilla Destiny 2, otherwise known as the Lighthouse equivalent for the old Trials of the Nine PvP mode, which, fun fact, has not been accessible since the launch of Forsaken when it was permanently vaulted, so it's going to be awesome to revisit an old piece of history. Within this space, the Emissary of the Nine returns as the main vendor, offering quests, bounties, and other rewards related to the dungeon event as a whole. The dungeons themselves will be on a weekly rotation, and each week a featured monument will be present within the social space representing the dungeon that's currently in rotation. In the instance they showed in the stream, you could very clearly see a silhouette of the Spire from Spire way off in the distance, and I'm assuming for the other 2 it could be a massive tetrahedron for Prophecy or a giant hive ship for Ghosts of the Deep. Furthermore, each dungeon will feature 3 separate difficulties: Explore Mode, Eternity Mode, and Ultimatum Mode. Explore Mode was described as an introductory experience for players looking to dip their toes into endgame content, with the mode itself featuring tooltips that guide the player to what they need to accomplish. And also, there won't be any darkness zones, meaning no wipes, and the respawn timer is set to 5 seconds to really make it a chill experience for newer players. Transitions between encounters in this mode will also feature waypoints to guide the player where to go, and reaching points along the transition will enable various catch-up mechanics to help players who are lagging behind. And the example they showed was a new set of elevators within the first Spire jumping puzzle which rise from the ground up. This will act as the base difficulty, and the next one after that is Eternity Mode, which not much is known about since they didn't discuss it, but it's pretty safe to assume this will be just like the regular dungeon at a fixed -5 power without any of the hand-holding from Explore Mode. Ultimatum Mode is the final and hardest difficulty, which will have the dungeon set at Contest Mode with additional modifiers like Not Swap, which makes it so swapping any exotic armor or weapons in general will drain all of your ability energy. In addition, there will also be a scoring system in place that's based entirely on player deaths, meaning that if you have fewer deaths, your score will be higher and the rewards you receive will be better quality, including double perk shiny versions. Speaking of weapons, 4 weapons from each dungeon have been reprised with new and updated perks, as well as a brand new selectable origin trait on top of the previous one offered. For Prophecy, the offerings are Prosecutor, Relentless, Judgment, and a Sudden Death. For Spire of the Watcher, it's Wield of Flight, Long Arm, Liminal Vigil, and Terminus Horizon. And for Ghosts of the Deep, it's New Pacific Epitaph, No Survivors, Greasy Luck, and Cold Comfort. Each of these weapons has a new visual look themed around the 9 and will come in a rarer double perk shiny version with another unique look, much like the holofoil shinies from Into the Light. And it seems to be like a galaxy sort of texture, which looks really cool. Glad they're doing this again. Each weapon will also come with a new origin trait, Gravity Well, which makes it so reloading this weapon automatically gathers nearby ammo. Finally, each of these weapons can be attuned at the 3rd Spire to increase the drop chance of said weapon dropping. Again, identical to Onslaught focusing. Cosmetics wise, 5 new emblems, a new memento, and new seal and triumphs will also release alongside the event. Lastly, a new limited time PvP mode was shown off known as Heavy Metal, and you literally get to pilot a brig and fight other players in Drake tanks, which looks like so much fun to play. And speaking for myself here, this announcement really took me and my friends by surprise. It honestly looks incredible and I cannot wait to play it. So with that concludes today's news report. I hope you enjoyed watching and have something to look forward to in the coming weeks and months. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.